Before we begin today's episode of Kandid Konversations with Dr. Kelli, I want to provide a trigger warning. This conversation includes sensitive discussions about violence, sexual assault, and suicide. These topics may be difficult or triggering for some listeners. Please take care of yourself while listening and step away if you need to. If you or someone you know is struggling, support is available. You can contact your local crisis hotline or call or text the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988. Your safety and well-being are what matter most. Welcome to Kandid Konversations with Dr. Kelli, where we dive deep into the conversations that matter most to your mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Dr. Kelli Utenham, a passionate advocate for brain health and wellness. And here on this podcast, we explore candid conversations about life, health, and the stories that shape us. Whether it's about mental health, sports, or simply navigating everyday challenges, we keep it real, raw, and relevant. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Welcome to another episode of Kandid Konversations with Dr. Kelli. I am very excited for my guest that we have today. Her name is Nia M, and she is not only a beauty queen, she is a survivor of concussion. She is a survivor of suspected CTE, and she is a diagnosee of early onset Alzheimer's. So, Nia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I always like for my guests to introduce themselves. I'll do a brief intro, but will you please talk to our listeners and tell them a little bit about your journey and yourself?
Sure, I am 50 years old and I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I'm a Gullah Geechee girl. I'm bilingual. I spent 23 years in the Air Force. I retired as an Air Force First Sergeant. And I'm a grandmother of two beautiful grandbabies. Um, I'm a dog mom, and I call myself a professional volunteer.
I love that. So, see, very brief intro. She does so many things. She is so many things. I would like to, on behalf of all of our listeners, thank you so much for your service. That is a long time to dedicate your life to helping to protect us in our land. So, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Of course. So I came across your beautiful face. Listeners, she is absolutely gorgeous. Please check the thumbnail. Beautiful lady, inside and out. But I came across a post where you were talking about CTE and in all of your gorgeous glory. And I took a chance and reached out and introduced myself because I really want people to hear your story and learn your story. Because as you and I have talked in the past, you were diagnosed prior to your age. I mean, you're still very young, 50, and you received your diagnosis at an age that doesn't seem quote unquote normal or typical for people. So could you tell our listeners about that time?
Sure. I started exhibiting symptoms, memory loss, coordination issues, executive functioning issues when I was still active duty in the Air Force. And I have to give a shout out to military medicine because they were phenomenal and very timely and very thorough in trying to figure out what was going on with me. At first, I was told that it was stress because I was high ranking and I had a very demanding job. Um, I was sent to mental health. And when those medications didn't seem to resolve my issues, I changed primary care doctors. And that primary care doctor sent me to many specialists because, as we may or may not know, there are many illnesses that can mimic dementia and have the same symptoms. So lo and behold, I saw many specialists, but the neurologist and the neuropsychologist they were the ones that kind of honed in through scans and testing. And in 2017, I was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. I that was done mm, in San Antonio. And at the time I was told, maybe four things, to watch the movie Still Alice. I had 5 to 8 good brain years left, get my affairs in order, and I honestly can't remember the next one. But I was given those tips, and to contact the Alzheimer's Association. I went through about a year of depression, and then I ended up moving here to Idaho. That's where I currently reside. And I had a new neurologist who performed neuroquant MRI, a
Will you,
neuro
I'm sorry, will you tell listeners how old you were when you received the diagnosis?
I received the early onset Alzheimer's diagnosis at the age of 42.
Wow.
Well, it was 4 months after I had retired from the Air Force because because I was not able to keep up with my duties, and I was given the option to go ahead and retire or be medically retired. But I was still in the diagnostic process. They were still trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And so I retired in August, and in December, that's when I received my results, my confirming results.
42.
At 42, which honestly, I didn't understand it because I thought that Alzheimer's was an old person's disease. I did not understand the caliber, the magnitude, the heaviness of the disease. My neurologist was more sad than I was because he understood, but I didn't understand. And when I dove into it a little bit more, that's when I fell into a deep depression and withdrawal for about a year. My faith is what brought me out of it. Absolutely 100%. I 10 out of 10, I highly recommend having a faith foundation to get you through trials. Um, but in 2022, when I moved to Idaho and changed neurologist, she ordered a neuroquant MRI, which actually I was re-diagnosed with from early onset Alzheimer's to probable CTE. She said that my atrophy was so widespread, it wasn't the pattern of Alzheimer's. So she asked me, she said, "Have you sustained head injuries or concussions?" And I actually had to think back because although I deployed 5 times in the military, I had never been in a blast, so to speak. But in my thoughts, I remembered that I sustained lots of blows to the head from childhood trauma, unfortunately. And she explained to me that it could take decades for the impact of TBIs, traumatic brain injuries, to actually show symptoms. So that's where I was. That's where I am.
Thank you so much for sharing that and for being so vulnerable. Like, I know a lot of these topics, like child trauma and, what is actually happening inside of your brain, can be very private. So I thank you so much for sharing this story. I really think that it's going to help a lot of listeners. Could you tell listeners what your rank was for our military folks out there who know what that means?
Sure, I retired as senior master sergeant, and for those that don't know, I was enlisted, and out of 9 ranks, I achieved 8 of them.
So she was that girl. That's what that means.
I was that girl, and I was blessed enough to obtain 7 degrees and certifications because I've always been a lover of learning.
And she's still seeking more, ladies and gentlemen. So she really is a lover of learning. So stay tuned for that. Could you speak to your symptoms that you started noticing at 42?
Absolutely. Um, a plethora of symptoms, widespread behavioral issues, behavioral changes. I was short tempered. I was very moody. I found myself walking out of meetings and not even knowing why I walked out of the meeting. I had an issue where I did not remember how to start my car. That was the first thing actually that alarmed me because I have a vehicle that it's just a press button. That's all you have to do. But I got in my car and I did not know what to do. I just blanked out. So that was very alarming. And I started having major anxiety attacks, behavioral issues, sleep was horrible, short-term memory. I have always been very astute and an amazing administrator of my craft. But my troops and my commanders were having to help me keep track of my meetings. I was making mistakes on paperwork, important paperwork, life changing paperwork for my troops. And thank goodness they were very accommodating and they were taking care of me because they knew everything was out of character. But I knew that it was time for me to be tested and to get assessed because it was not me. I've always been able to multitask, always been on top of my game, but I was slipping.
So I can attest, ladies and gentlemen, that she is the sweetest, most patient, kind person. So I commend you for noticing those things in yourself and looking inward, because there can be people who look outward and are looking to blame. But it sounds like you had a phenomenal medical team. And I want to talk about that a little bit more because you are absolutely blessed to have military medicine that was able to support you. And you started in San Antonio and then you have treatment in Idaho. Could you speak to your experience with military medicine?
Military medicine, I'm a retired medic as well. That was my primary job. And then I became a first sergeant. I so I have a very good understanding of processes and the systems because I was in charge of a lot of things and clinics, things like that, operationally and administratively. I believe that military medicine is unmatched because their job is to make sure that the warfighter is well enough and equipped enough to win wars. So they're very thorough. When my primary care doctor, the one that I changed to, she sent me to many specialties. She sent me to an endocrinologist, rheumatologist, neurologist, neuropsych, and nephrologist because my kidneys were a little iffy too. So she sent me to all of these specialties to try to figure out exactly what was going on and anything, to rule out anything. But none of us had dementia in our sights. We did not. I will tell you, I honestly believed that I had a brain tumor.
Mhm.
I I thought I had a brain tumor, and I thought, okay, these scans are going to reveal a brain tumor. They're going to take it out, and then I'm going to be back to normal. So when I sat in my neurologist office in December of 2017, and he told me that my scan revealed early onset Alzheimer's and showed me the various places of my brain that were affected and what they do, I I couldn't believe it. I honestly didn't believe it.
Here's a quick break with a quick question. Have you joined my Patreon family yet? It's the best way to support the show and get even more of the real, unfiltered content you love. There are 3 tiers. The free tier has previews and short clips so you know what's coming up. The $2 tier gives you behind the scenes content, travel vlogs, and me getting real on some taboo topics. And the $5 tier gives you full bonus episodes of Kandid Konversations with Dr. Kelli that you won't find anywhere else. We've already got hours of content waiting for you, and trust me, we have a lot of fun over there. So don't wait. Head over to Patreon and join us today. Okay, let's get back to the episode. Wow. Now, I am trying to get my thoughts together here. I'm very glad that you had that wonderful experience. In my private practice, in my experience in the field working with patients, you have just described a phenomenal experience because there are so many people that come into my practice and they'll say, I was never told this. They never explained this to me. I don't know what this is. Or, they could even have a device that is specifically supposed to help them with exercises for whatever their condition is. And they're like, well, I didn't get any training on it. They just handed it to me and I've had it, upstairs in a box for 6 months. And I'm very glad that there is medicine and other medical professionals that are really taking the time to explain what's going on. I love that you got to see your scans and they explained what was happening and what each part of the brain does that was showing up affected. So, listeners, if you have been with me for a while or from the beginning, one, thank you. And two, so with CTE or chronic traumatic encephalopathy, it takes years to start showing up as signs and symptoms. And so you were saying that in childhood you experienced trauma. Could you speak to the length of time between your last traumatic encounter to the point that you were starting to see signs at 42? And did you see signs a little bit earlier now that you're educated on the diagnosis?
Yes, I absolutely believe that I've always been an achiever and I will overcome whatever obstacle. That's just how I'm made. I'm built that way. I had learning disabilities in school, even though I was in gifted and talented programs since third grade. But I really worked hard because my mother was very abusive. I couldn't come home with a B. I had to get all A's. So I had to work very, very hard. And I had to come up with my own strategies at a very young age to get all the A's and very little B's. My last the last physical encounter that I can remember with my mother was probably at the age of 15. And at that time, she had slammed my head into the shower, into the bathtub several
Oh,
times. Um,
several.
yes. So I've been hit in the head with an iron. She's, my, it was very traumatic, very traumatic. But, I've always been of faith. I had a wonderful God fearing grandmother that took me to church and introduced me to the Lord. So I believe he's always had a hand on me and protected me from too much harm. I absolutely believe that.
Well, I think I'm glad that you have that perspective and that outlook, and that you have a strong faith foundation. But I will tell you that an iron and what you described, like it is that bad. But I am glad that you were able to survive that. So those are serious injuries and trauma to the head, especially with repetition. So from 15, you said that you did start to experience symptoms prior to 42. Could you talk about that a little?
Yes, as I said, I have several degrees and certifications. And for me, I've always needed to have help or have extra help because of my attention span. I have a very short attention span, and I pretty much always have. And I think we have to pay attention to the children that are sustaining head injuries, whether it be from abuse or sports or things like that, because academically, it will be affected. It absolutely will be affected. And I will say that was probably where I struggled the most was in academic settings. I also suffered from depression for a long time,
As
a
a
very
child.
long time. Yes, from a child on to it wasn't until I got into the military I was able to, see a therapist and unpack some of those things and get on the right mood stabilizers and things like that. But I'm from the country and we just never went to the doctor for anything back then. We just couldn't afford it. So there was a lot of suffering and enduring and overcoming as a child.
And so you're coming home with A's because you better. So does that mean that you were able to achieve these A's and be as fantastic as you were in school without support? So, like, there was nothing in place for teachers to give you extended time, or nobody is checking in. You're just making it work.
No one was checking in. And I was in advanced courses starting in the third grade. I took myself out of advanced courses because I wanted to be a cheerleader in the ninth grade. Then I just took, average courses and survived that. But I thank the Lord I had cheerleading to kind of help me with things. But no, I had no support. And I remember one time I went to school with a black eye and nothing happened. No teacher did anything.
Oh,
And that is absolutely wild that when I think back, nobody was there to help me.
oh my gosh. Okay. Well, as you and I have talked, we have a commonality in that we both grew up in abusive environments at the hands of our mothers. Um, so I can't even imagine. I know that you were trained not to talk about it, right? Don't talk about what goes on in this house. But to see the actual evidence and nobody said a thing is shocking. Obviously not impossible, and it happens, but I think about the comparison of then and today because there are so many things that are in place. So what advice would you have for educators, young people themselves who are students who could be experiencing abuse? What advice, well, I want to talk straight to people who can lay eyes on. What would your advice be to for what to keep an eye out for young people who could be experiencing abuse?
Withdrawal, uh, depression, overachievement. Because if you go home with something below what they want, you're going to get it. That could be the case. Of course, physical signs. But if you see something, say something.
Absolutely. Please, please listen, listeners. If you see something, say something. Young people, children, students, student athletes, they don't have the power to get out of the situation independently. They're going to need help. And as a survivor myself, and I'm sure as yourself, a helping hand or someone to step in and stop the abuse would have absolutely been welcomed. Because as a young person, you don't know how to do it or what to do, and you also grow up thinking that it's normal. So you're told not to say anything, and you're like, well, I don't know that my friends, that this isn't normal in other people's homes. So very similar question: what would be something that adults can look out for in student athletes with brain injury?
With brain injury, I would say short term memory problems, absolutely. Mood changes, behavioral changes, ups and downs, high highs, low lows, depression, impulsivity, uh, issues with just thinking things that are not okay are okay, habits that are not okay, but you thinking that they're okay in the moment. I don't know how to put that into words, but and actually also hypersexuality.
That is a thing. I say all the time during my talks, the brain is the motherboard. And so if, that is sustaining abuse, all of the things that the motherboard controls, which is everything, can be affected. And sex drive and all of that is a big part of that. And people don't consider that. So thank you very much for sharing that.
And I would also like to alert people because mine was childhood domestic violence. I have kind of dabbled into the domestic violence realm of things. And a lot of domestic violence survivors have TBIs, they have concussions because their abusers often will hit them in the head because that doesn't show the bruises. So, also, just if you're a survivor of domestic violence, Also, get yourself checked out if you're exhibiting symptoms brain related.
Would you recommend that they express what they're experiencing to their medical provider when they're getting checked out?
Absolutely. The more that your provider knows, the more tools that they have and resources that they can use to help you and to diagnose what's going on.
Okay. Okay. So I have my question now. All of this is really making me want to ask so many different questions, but I'm staying the course. Okay. Could you talk about what depression looks like? Because it can look different for everybody. You experienced it as a very young person. So what does that look like? What are some of those thoughts if you're comfortable with sharing?
The sadness ran deep. It ran very deep. It felt very hollow. I felt very alone. I felt as though I was walking in a gray room all the time. A gray room, smoke filled, gray walls, just alone, you know? And it, as an adult, as my depression turned into major depression disorder, um, as my memory dealing with all the things, because being told, oh, your memory is affected because you're stressed out. Okay, it's the chicken or the egg. What comes first? I had to tell that doctor, I am depressed because of my memory issues. So it's not the depression is causing, it's the chicken or the egg. So it's it it really felt like I was just walking alone in a dark room all the time.
Very lonely.
Yes.
Did you have siblings or support when you were young?
I did not. My mother actually, I have a brother, a younger brother, but he did not sustain anything. He was treated like a crown prince, to be frank.
Par for the
Um,
course. They say mothers raise their daughters but love their sons. I've heard that all my life.
yes, that's my experience.
Well, I'm very sorry about that. Do you have a relationship with your brother now?
I do not. I do not. I do not have a relationship with my mother because although I forgave her for everything, she's still quite abusive verbally, if she can be. So I've had to love her from afar. I've had to put up those boundaries and say, this isn't where I'm not going to live a lifetime of abuse. I'm just not going to do that.
I have got to tip my hat to you for that because in the Black community, it is not acceptable or well received or really even understood to have a an estrangement from your mother. Really anybody, but they really put that emphasis on mother.
Mhm.
And I say that because I can relate. I'm estranged from my mother. Same thing. Forgave her a long time ago. I love her. It just has to be from afar to protect myself, my safety, and the work that I have done in therapy. So I absolutely commend you. We absolutely can love our mothers and not have, negative, nasty thoughts or feelings towards them, but you absolutely have a right to protect yourself. So absolutely tipping my hat to you, and you and I can definitely relate on that. I would like to talk about your work in therapy, and I always say therapy is work. Like you don't go in and you're just talking about fluff stuff. Like I call it kind of scraping out the infection. Like you've got to get out the painful stuff, the stuff that's going to continue to hurt you, and clear it up, clean it up, and then let it heal. Could you talk to the benefits that you gained or experienced when you finally did get to therapy in the military?
I will say therapy is only as good as the information that you reveal. Garbage in, garbage out.
I love that.
So if you are not being open and honest and digging deep and doing the work, you are not going to you're not going to reap the benefits of it. You're not going to heal. And it wasn't, I've been in therapy ever since, I mean, the whole 20 something years of my career, I was in therapy. But it wasn't until I was 40 years old and I was living in Okinawa, Japan. I had the amazing therapist. She she peeled back all the layers. And, you know, I unfortunately I was raped when I was 14. And I could not tell my mother. I did not tell my mother because I felt as though it was my fault. And at 14, I did try to commit suicide. I slit my wrist. And when she found me, she hit me in the head. She beat me up, pulled my hair, all those things. And I that was unpacked in therapy. So I could finally, because I would have anxiety attacks, but I had all of these things that I compartmentalized. You have to let it all out in order to heal.
That is a lot to even hear, so I can't imagine experiencing it. But I'm glad that you did the work and you and I talk. I know that you've done your therapy work. I know that you have your very strong faith foundation and you have an excellent support system, a couple of excellent support systems actually. I would like to talk about your beauty because you are a beauty queen. Could you speak to how you got into that space? Because you do not look like what you have been through.
Praise God
Amen.
for that. Um, let's see, I moved here in 2021, and in 23, I was in a fashion show and I met Miss Boise. And she also happened to be a brown woman. And she said, you should do pageants. And I was in my high school pageant a long time ago. So basically a 30-year hiatus or so. And I said, okay, let's see. Because she said, well, my pageant system, they focus on your platform and what you do. And that got me to thinking I could have a voice about, busting that old early onset dementia stigma, because we don't look like what we're going through. And people need to know that there are stages before you get to be in that late stage, nonverbal, things like that. It starts decades before. And so that is my mission, to educate people on that.
Yes, I love your platform. I want to talk more about your platform. I want to know well, first, this is just a little fangirl moment. What is it like when they call your name that you've won?
Um, oh gosh, it's unexplainable because I just don't see myself that way. I really do see myself as walking in my purpose, educating people, advocating, showing people that you can be more than your diagnosis. You can be more than whatever label, whatever time that the doctor has given you. Like, my doctor only gave me 5 to 8 good years. I'm in year 8 right now, and I have my challenges and I have had decline, but I feel like I'm thriving. I feel like I'm fighting this thing with all my might. So it just feels affirming, but unbelievable at the same time.
That sounds amazing. And yes, you do not look like what you have been through. We have said that, but you really don't look like what you have been through. You don't look like your diagnosis. And before we started recording, we talked a little bit about how, it's important to remove that stigma of what something quote unquote looks like because as I say, if I'm doing a talk or interview, what have you, people who have physical conditions, they have a visual cue. And so you can look at a wheelchair and say, well, something must have happened. Someone who has a crutch or a sling or anything, a band-aid. These are all visual cues that society knows something happened to them. And there's just a natural allowance for more patience and understanding. Let me hold this door for you. How can I help you? How can I support or show up for you? Not everybody in the world, but that is the general consensus of when someone sees someone with a visual cue that there has been an injury or something. With the brain, it's not that way because you can't see it and you are gorgeous. And so people are going to think, oh, well, she couldn't possibly have any issues, she doesn't quote unquote look like she has, suspected CTE or any form of dementia. So I want to talk about your platform and how you are raising awareness. Could you explain to our listeners? You share with me a little bit. When you are queen, you are responsible for doing certain community events, a certain number or something. Could you talk to that?
Well, I am a part of the United USA pageant system. And per contract, I have to make at least 2 appearances a month advocating. It is a pageant system that doesn't really focus on your beauty as much, but they focus on what you're doing for the community. And that's what I love. So I'm able to get out. I do news conferences, I do events, I show up at, community events. I've been asked to speak. I've been asked to do many podcasts. I'm in magazines, people do articles. It's just an amazing journey. And I feel like the more people that I can reach, the more I can just educate and change the narrative on this whole dementia thing. And I have had so many people come and reach out to me and say, so what do I start? Because I'm having this problem or that problem. Where do I start? And I'm able to speak on my journey and guide them. So it's just a blessing to just be able to have a voice. I have had many of my brothers and sisters in the fight that have passed away and that are becoming nonverbal and things like that. And I don't take it lightly that I still have a voice.
That is beautiful. And I know that you have brothers and sisters that you meet with regularly. So you have a very strong support system. Could you speak to that briefly?
Yes, I have about 3 support groups that I'm involved in. I started 2 of them. Uh, one of them, my primary one, is with the National Council of Dementia Minds, and we are Black dementia minds, a subset. We are all Black and Brown people, various ages, various stages, and various dementias, and we support each other on the foundation of faith. We call ourselves a family. Um, when I was diagnosed and went through my major depression associated with the diagnosis. When I came out of it, I went to early onset support group in San Antonio, but nobody looked like me. Nobody was young. Everyone was older in moderate to late stages. And I said, you know what? We need an under 65. So I partnered with the Alzheimer's Association on a national level, and we started at that time a virtual under 65 early stage support group that has been thriving for years. And we have members throughout the world. Um, I just recently started a virtual early stage support group here in Idaho for Idaho residents. We're just getting off the ground. We have about 4 people, but it will grow. The challenge out here is that we don't have many neurologists. So lots of people are undiagnosed.
And they
And
don't have the military support that you do. Not
yes,
everybody.
exactly. Yes. The civilian, I'm finding that the journey for civilians and, civilian affiliated providers and things like that is they go through it for years before they get a proper diagnosis. And I don't understand it. But out here, it is due to the supply of neurologists. And the ones that are here, there's a reluctance to diagnose
Why?
because we just don't have the resources.
So if they don't diagnose, then they won't need to use the resources that don't exist or that are scarce.
Bingo.
Wow. Wow.
But I'm
Well,
fighting it. I'm creating resources. I partner with the Area Agency on Aging. I've partnered with the Alzheimer's Association out here. Um, yeah, I've partnered with the Alzheimer's and dementia and related dementias with the Health and Welfare Department for the state. I make as many connections as I can.
well, you are an achiever and a go-getter, all the things that you described. And of course, you would be actually starting these organizations or these support groups on your own. You're so phenomenal. But I know we're going to wrap it up here shortly. You have other things to do, Queen Nia. Could you share with listeners what is one thing that you want them to really take away from your story and what we talked about?
I guess maybe three things off the
Okay.
top of my head. I would like to emphasize a spiritual foundation of some sort, because you can't go through this alone. You have to have a belief and a grounding belief in something greater and bigger than yourself to pull you through, because you will have dark times. You will have fleeting thoughts. That spiritual foundation will help you to not stay there. The second thing will be to advocate for yourself. Never stop learning and never, ever stop advocating for yourself, because no one knows your body and your condition better than you. Nobody does. And if you can't advocate for yourself, make sure that you have a partner or a friend or a family member that is your voice. You will need strength to get through this journey. And the last thing is, for all the other listeners, just be patient and kind, because everyone is fighting some battle. Ours is a little different. We have an invisible disability that's probably been confirmed through medical scans and things like that and diagnosis. But just be gentle and kind with each other.
I love that. That is a beautiful three things to remember. So please, you heard it from an expert, lived expert here. So please consider those three things, take them into account. And I want to thank you for inviting me to speak with your family. The support group that you started, I was able to come and talk about speech therapy and the benefits of it, and hopefully encouraged other people to get onto a speech therapist caseload. And I made sure that people knew what questions to ask and different resources that were available. So I know that with your wonderful platform that you'll be raising awareness and talking about speech therapy as well, because now you're working with a speech therapist too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to me. But see, that's why we were brought together.
Yes.
Yes. Hey everyone, Dr. Kelli here, founder of Brain Talk Foundation, and I need your help. Every donation helps us raise awareness about brain health and concussions, especially in underserved communities. We're going into schools, talking to students, athletes, parents, coaches, educators, and speech language pathologists, making brain health education accessible and impactful. Brain Talk Foundation is a 501c3, so every donation is tax deductible, and every single dollar makes a difference. Support this mission. Visit braintalkfoundation.org and donate today. Together, we're saving brains and changing lives. Okay, so we are going to do the Candid questionnaire before we wrap up. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. What is one word your friends would use to describe you?
Nice.
I concur. That says it all. Okay, number two, if you could instantly master any sport or physical skill, what would it be and why?
I would be a singer, because music is my life. I believe music speaks to the soul and says words that are unspoken. Music conveys words and emotions that are unspoken. And if I could sing, I'd be singing this interview if I could.
I think that would be my first singing interview, but I think that that would be amazing. I like it. Singing. Okay. Number three, what's one activity or hobby you find most relaxing or beneficial for your brain?
Exercise. I exercise 7 days a week, every morning, because unfortunately, I also have rheumatoid arthritis. So I have brain stuff and I have body stuff. But what's good for the heart and good for the body is good for the mind.
Very true. And very disciplined. But you were E8, so not surprising, very impressive. Number 4, what's the weirdest or most unexpected item in your bag or car right now?
Ooh, that's a good one. Let's see. Weird thing in my bag or in my car
Or unexpected?
or unexpected. Mm, Well, for me, because I'm kind of a health nut, I have energy gum
What?
and it's filled with caffeine and it's not good for me. But yeah, I would say that because I'm a vanilla person, but that energy gum is kind of off script.
What is energy gum? I've never even heard of this.
It's by a company called REV. And I found it one day and I just keep going to this one particular gas station that carries that gum. And I just stock up and it just picks me up when I'm feeling like I'm a little dragging a little bit, but it's very contrary to my health journey.
That's so interesting. That kind of makes me want to ask you in today's day to day. We did talk about your original symptoms. What are some things that you experience today?
Oh my. I've been having some cognitive issues as a secondary effect of my pain because I'm in pain a lot. I'm in neck pain, I'm in joint pain, back pain, hand pain, all the things. And that has been affecting my cognition, unable to concentrate, unable to focus, secondary to the pain. But when we take care of the pain, my short term memory is a huge roadblock. I I wander off. I can't finish tasks in the house. That's why I have a housekeeper, have a lawn guy, have a handyman. I have all the things because, and if I could have a chef, I would have one too, because I found a sandwich in my laundry room one day. I found food in the microwave. I don't finish. I guess I was preparing a salad one day, but then I found myself sitting on the couch and I just happened to get up to do something. And I was like, oh, I was making a salad, so I get distracted quite frequently and I don't really remember.
Understood. But I know your speech therapist should have some exercises for you and some strategies that can help with those kinds of things. So thank you for sharing and answering that impromptu question. Okay, back to the last question. Here we go. What's your go to guilty pleasure TV show, movie, or song?
Oh, um, there's two TV shows that, oh man, Big Brother, because it's a microcosm chasm of society. You got these people that are in a house, they're competing, they got all these personalities, but they have to have a strategy on how they're going to win that money and be the number one. But you see every type of personality, you see many types of personalities. So it's just a small tidbit of what society looks like. And I love it. And another one is probably uh, Real Housewives of Atlanta.
You're hanging on?
I'm hanging on.
Oh man. Now see Big Brother, I know a lot of people love Big Brother. People are falling off with Atlanta. You're holding on.
I'm holding on because Phaedra's back.
Okay, all right, I'll give you Phaedra. Yes, Faye Faye is back. She slid back on over from Married to Medicine.
Yes. And my other one is probably Southern Hospitality, because I'm from that town. And it's just,
Really?
yeah, that's my city. So it's just sort of like, it's, I love just seeing my people. I can relate. you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so remind me, Southern Charm, that is on
Southern
Bravo as
Charm as
well.
well. Yeah,
That's
Southern
on
Charm.
Bravo.
Yes.
Okay, all right, just making
Both
sure.
of those, Southern Charm and Southern Hospitality. I love
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure that you've taken your Southern charm and your Southern hospitality with you to Idaho. And the people who are around you are absolutely blessed. And I know they know that just by your spirit and your energy. So I
that.
want to thank you for speaking with me today. Before we hop off, is there anything that you would like listeners to know? Like anything you want to promote that's coming up? How can they find you?
They can follow me. It is public. Miss Elite Idaho United USA on Instagram. And it is Miss Elite Idaho United USA Facebook.
Wonderful. We'll have those in the show notes for people.
Thank you. I guess one last thing, make sure that you're taking advantage of all the therapies available to you. Cognitive therapy, speech therapy, vocational therapy, all the things. You'd be surprised how working together, you can really help yourself thrive.
And you have a phenomenal team, which is probably why, aside from your just sheer will and determination and motivation and all the things that are within you, you've really practiced what you're preaching. You have that strong faith foundation and the support group and all those things. And I know you have a wonderful supporting family as well. So I tip my hat to you. You are amazing. I knew I wanted to have you on the podcast so that others could benefit from hearing your wonderful story. So I say thank you again. And we will talk soon.
Thank you. It's been an honor and a blessing.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Kandid Konversations with Dr. Kelli. I appreciate you being part of this journey and these powerful conversations around brain health and beyond. If you're loving the podcast and want even more bonus episodes, exclusive Q&As, stories from my professional and personal life, behind the scenes moments, and yes, those bloopers you all love, then I invite you to join my Patreon family, where we always keep it candid. Your membership gives you access to all that bonus content and helps keep this podcast going strong. Plus, every contribution helps support our mission to raise awareness, educate, and empower others about the silent struggles so many face. So head on over to patreon.com/Dr. Kelli to join today. I'd love to have you. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and as always, keep it candid.